The MR abdomen, I like to say that few years back, say about 7 to 8 years back, there are multiple stones in the gallbladder. A surgeon think of there may be one stone in the common bile duct, whether to explore it or not. They usually suggest ERCP, but one thing that ERCP, there is a chance of acute pancreatitis. And after the ERCP, if there is acute pancreatitis and ERCP finding is negative, you are in this soup. You have to face the patient party. So MRCP in that sense is absolutely safe. If you find some stone, some obstruction, along with the ERCP, you can put a stent or use a basket and remove the stone and all these things. But recently, I think that the MRCP is more important if you think there is some obstruction in common bile duct. Third important point I like to mention that sometimes we think that TI is always due to some infarct. Not infarct, there is ischemic insult in the brain. But it may also happen in small hemorrhage, small metastasis. Patient recovers fully. It may also happen. That is due to the edema that resolutes. The size of the lesion is so small that clinically it becomes okay, but that means that TI always need a CT scan at least or neuroimaging study, other neuroimaging studies, and do not consider the TIA always an ischemic insult of the brain. That is very important. Second, sometimes it may give a clue that sudden memory loss. When you do a CT, there is one rare clinical finding is memory loss due to caudate nucleus hemorrhage. The caudate nucleus, you know, the mammillary thalamo tract passes near the caudate nucleus, through the caudate nucleus, and that is for the recent memory loss. So this hemorrhage, these vessels supply the caudate nucleus are very small, and the vessels that rupture in hemorrhage are larger size. So caudate nucleus hemorrhage always speaks of arteriovenous malformation in the caudate nucleus. So in this situation, there may be no rise in blood pressure or past history of any hypertension. So caudate nucleus hemorrhage is an important clue to recent memory loss and an AV malformation rather than a hemorrhage due to hypertension. Third, I like to mention that certain lesion needs in operations, as for example this cerebellar hemorrhage. Cerebellar hemorrhage, whenever there is a cerebellar hemorrhage, the operation is not mandatory, but when there is deteriorating or size is very large, you have to consult with the neurosurgeon because that is very rewarding. Regarding the prognosis, I like to mention that in the hemorrhage, there is not only damage but dissection of the nerve fibers, whereas in the infarct, there is a massive death of the nerve cells. So in the hemorrhage, the ultimate recovery is more than in the infarct. So when you face the patient party, in a case of a stroke, what you will have to say? Look, this patient is conscious right now, but after third to fifth day, there is accumulation of water and that will create more pressure. So the patient may become unconscious after third to fifth day. This is very important because the patient party will ask you that I brought patient who was conscious, now he became unconscious. So you must tell him that the patient party that after third to fifth day, the patient may deteriorate. And the main issue is the volume, either due to the clot or infarct or due to the main issue is the volume because the skull is a closed box. So any change in volume, there is a massive rise of pressure. Now, if you consider the pathophysiology, that initially the volume is more. In the 2 to 4 weeks, in the CT scan, either in the infarct or in the hemorrhage, they become more or less isodense. After 4 weeks, they become hypodense lesions. So the volume is regressed after 3 to 4 weeks. That depends upon the size of the infarct or hemorrhage. So the critical period is not 72 hours. The critical period is 3 to 4 weeks. That must be expressed to the patient party. Don't think that the 72 hours is over and everything, your crisis is over. Because the crisis may persist up to 3 to 4 weeks. That depends upon the size of the stroke. This is all I like to say. These are the major issues regarding the what we face sometimes in the traumatic quadriplegia. That what happens if there's a vertebra is burst, some spicules protruding and compressing the spinal cord. What happens in MRI? We go for MRI for soft tissue changes. Soft tissue changes. But in that situation, we sometimes what happens, that spicular bone is you have to remove. Where is the spicular bone? You want to know. MRI sometimes miss the spicular bone. So in this situation, you may need CT and MRI both. Because in the CT scan, bone is more, you can see bone more specifically, and the MRI you can't see the bone so specifically. You miss bone. Yes. This is the MRI. This fracture is in the anterior part of the vertebra. But suppose there is a spicular bone fractured from here and compressing the spinal cord. You have to remove. You may miss in the MRI, but not in the CT scan. Anterior fracture is not so important to us. Anterior fracture. It is the posterior fracture that is important to the neurosurgeon. Look at the displacement. Look at this displacement. You need to stabilize this spine. The most important if it is in the C1, C2 level. Immediately you have to put a collar, not a hard collar, but a Philadelphia collar or something more. If the fracture is high up, even in this fracture, there must not be any neck movements in this fracture. Yes. Look at this fracture. Now the alignment maybe seems to be okay, but if you take this plate in the full flexion and extension, there may be some displacement. But this is a very risky procedure because as you press the patient neck or extend it, the displacement may be permanent. This is the first one. This is very risky. This is very risky. And this practice is also unstable because there is a and this is also compression. But you know that you can see that the compression factor, the spinal cord is more or less okay. So what is most important, you have to assess clinically what Dr. Shadu told you. It is important. Suppose one patient came to me with an MRI with a very large disc and everybody suggests you need immediate surgery. Okay? But clinically, the patient has only absent knee jump on one side. This patient never needs surgery. Surgery is not necessary. Very large disc, and The disc is in such a position that it is neither compressing the roots or this only the L5S1 root is compressed to a slight extent. Only the ankle jerk is absent and nothing else.
Then how to follow up this case?
Yes, you have to follow up this case clinically. That's all. One thing I would like to mention, another point, any acute low back pain after 65 years, you have to think very seriously, because the water content of the disc is less. So acute low back pain due to disc prolapse is very unlikely. In this case, you have to think something more serious, whether it is a metastasis or something like that. So acute low back pain above 65 years, you have to take it very seriously. So if you have any questions to Dr. Shadu and to me, you can ask. We will try to answer.